Hey, welcome back to another book review. I'm hoping everything's good. I'm very excited for this next book. We've had the same author before, and he has written many books about things, and I really like his writing because it really inspires me to kind of keep learning, and also to do a lot more assessment on myself. So, the book is called The Science of Self-Learning, and this by Peter Hollins, and he introduces that how to teach yourself anything, learn more in less time, because time's always a factor, and direct your own education. And that's something that you need to, or we need to, as a society, to kind of learn too, because, once you get through school, maybe you graduate high school, you go to a university, you maybe stop learning. And part of that is just, getting lazy, or you already did the schooling thing. You don't want to put anything else on your hands. You got a job, you got a career going, and then you kind of stop. And I think that's great and all, but you're kind of missing out on other things in life. And reading wise and opening your brain up in more neural connections. So let's go ahead and read over this book. And this book offers a lot of effective ways of self-learning. And it's not just in the classroom, but outside. And it really, the author of this book, he is a lifelong learner, and he has written many books, and he has 2 degrees in psychology. And that's pretty much all I really know about him. And so think back in the 20th century. So 20th century is the 1900s, right? And think about the technology that there was before. So the technology wasn't advanced like we are. Well, like it's today. You couldn't really self-learn unless you went to the library, unless you got an encyclopedia, or unless you knew a mentor or somebody. You couldn't really self-learn a lot because you didn't have access to resources very easy. So think about that. Like last 100 years, it was really hard to go and learn on your own. You would have to go to a major university, and you would have to pay a lot of money also for that. And so today we're very easy. You can, self-educating is thriving. People are going to get their master's degree or getting a degree at a university online. It's really easy, and they can sit at their house and go across. They can be across the United States and in another room. And so you get higher degrees, but it takes a lot of commitment, though, on your part in time management and reevaluating, how you can be independently learning. So this book really aids into make that easy for us. So there's a difference between traditional learning and self-learning. Traditional learning is like institutions, college, universities. There's some elements of this is a good thing that are very true to learning, and there's somebody there to motivate you. The teacher's there in the room to you sit down, you work in a group, you get to know people, you get to write stuff, hand stuff in, and you get to listen for how many minutes, and so that you have a motivation right there. And if you don't have that motivation at home, it's really difficult sometimes. But that's the thing about self-learning. When you're self-learning, you're kind of free. You need to kind of say, hey, what motivates me to self-learn? A lot of people don't do this. And you can stop anytime you want. You go at your own pace. And that's really the difference between going to school and self-learning. And sometimes people have a different view, or they have a very negative view or criticizing view of traditional schools. But think about the big part of that versus on your own. That's what I like to think about. So college degrees don't have to be the ending part of your education. Yet, this is how many students feel. And I think I said that before. Universities and colleges, they're a very limited career track. You go to school, you learn a particular trade, a degree, and then you're done, right? And then you have this newfound knowledge. But that knowledge changes very rapidly. And schools don't always can control that. And you have to adapt to that readiness, that repeatedly. And it doesn't teach you this, but it gives you kind of a way to figure it out. Self-learning gives you an advantage or an upper hand. And it's really, you have to develop self-discipline though, because you gotta do it yourself now. You're not paying somebody a lot of money to get the education. And you might think that's a scam and things kind of really weird, or you're not getting the information you paid for. Well, that's why you have to do a lot of independent learning too. College is a choice. University is a choice. Trade schools are a choice. And I know that you have to pay money to get educated, and I understand that. But think of the reward you get. And I think that's part of it. You have to think about the mindset of the reward. So colleges set that up, and they have to have a specific study that you go to a career for. Like you want to study being an auto mechanic versus a contractor versus a teacher versus a scientist. Those specific fields at a college, they only teach you so much, but you got to be on the outskirts too to get the whole realm of things. So self-learning is you have to lay out the groundwork for yourself. You have to put a roadmap where you want to go. You have to self-manage yourself. You got to have confidence in what you're learning. You can't just, you have to force yourself sometimes to learn too, but have fun. Make it rewarding, meaningful. And you have to have a motivation of why you're doing this. And it's a work ethic. If you have a poor work ethic, you're probably not going to be very successful at it. And it takes a lot of time, and it takes resources. I mean, we have the internet, but you have to be really careful what you get from the internet, because sometimes it's not always true. Like you go on somebody's blog, they might not have the resources. Wikipedia is a good start, but Wikipedia can be changed. And then you have to comprehend what you're reading and what you're learning too. And that's always hard. And it takes lots of time to get over those hurdles. So we have to kind of go back though. What is learning again? What is learning? And so learning is a behavioral change. Learning is an attitude. It's a belief. Hey, I believe in myself that I can learn this on my own, or I want to learn this because this is what I want to do with my life, or this is what I want to expand. It's a discipline. Learning is a discipline thing. Not everybody can learn very easily, but they can learn. They have opportunities to learn. And it takes a lot of attention, and it has to be measured. You have to see the reward, but it's also a trial and error basis. Some things you learn, and sometimes you learn it the wrong way. You can practice the wrong thing. So every subject or discipline is either an art or a science. So an art is very subjective. Subjective means there's no right or wrong answers to it. Science is very objective. Objective is there's really no opinions. It's about whether you're not right or wrong. It's really just, hey, it could be this, it could be not, it can always be changed. So art is, you have no right or answers. And objective is really there's no opinions. It can be changed. And, we think about formulas in math or science. You think about formulas. Formulas is what everybody should learn, right? Everybody's learning the same formulas, like y equals mx plus b, or force is equal to mass times acceleration. You're learning those from different teachers, and those are very collective. They don't call them they call it objective, right? They're very objective. Here they are. So self-learning, you are the instructor. Self-learning, you are the instructor. You have to seek out this information, and you have to seek out if it's true or not. So a lot of investigation on this. And you have to be an independent learner. And you have to see the rewards and the punishments to it, because if you don't spend too much time on it, you're not going to get it to the point of that. And you have to have an intrinsic motivation. You say, why am I doing this? And the autonomy as well. The autonomy is complete. You have to have, you're in completely control of your own life. And it's up to you to progress more after school or whatever you're doing in life, right? And then you have to kind of come back to what's the mastery part? What does mastery mean? If I'm a self-learner and I'm just trying to learn a little bit about this book here, when I master it, what does that mean to me? What am I getting if I master this book? And mastery, you have to be the gauge of mastery. Mastery is kind of like a drive to improve yourself in your skills. Maybe it's passion. Maybe my mastery is a passion. Maybe it's a purpose. What's the purpose of that? You have to inspire yourself. And it does take a couple things. It takes confidence to learn. It takes regulating your impulses of distractions. That was 2. And then 3 is kind of like learning is more than picking up a book and reading it. Anybody, I guess you can say that anybody can pick this book up and start to read, right? But it's what you are doing and how you're doing it to get the information passed. And so it's the interaction with the information. So you're trying to assimilate and you're trying to comprehend what you're reading. You're not just picking up a book and just and then done, right? No brain power behind it. So there is a strategy, a method that somebody came up. It's called the SQ3R method. And this is kind of like how you read a textbook, because textbooks are really hard. So, if you have a physics textbook, a physics textbook, they can be very hard to read and a lot of information there. And does anybody teach you how to read a textbook in school, or do you know how to read a textbook on your own? And probably the answer is no. And so you might want to kind of pay attention to this, because this is interesting. Textbooks, they carry a lot of dense material. And there's a lot of margins that have some words in it. You guys say, is that important? And they could be worse than that. And you have to make it more easier and comprehended and engaging when you're reading this. And so Francis P. Robertson developed a way to help students comprehend this information. You can look this up if you want. It's called SQ3R. So there's 5 components of this that Francis said. 1 is the survey, question, read, recite, review. So the first thing is survey. So when you read the book, what's the topic? What's the big picture? What's the details? What's the objective to it? Look through the bold. It's kind of like you're doing a little overview, right? Just flipping through the pages, kind of see the boldness, some of the words you're using. And it's kind of like you're keeping an eye on the important stuff. So you're kind of doing like a survey of it. The next thing is called questions. Looking through this chapter, you're thinking, okay, I'm looking a little bit more deeper. Do I have, what's questions? So if I'm looking at gravity, so let's say I'm looking at, I'm looking at my physics book here, and I'm self-learning this, and I look at gravity, and I don't know what gravity is, and so I see things that fall. Maybe there's like instant rate versus average rate, and something falls, right? And there's a force that makes that fall. Okay, so the question I have is, let's say, okay, what is making something fall? And maybe is there any formulas for that? So you're kind of doing a look over that. So the next thing is called, now I have to do some reading. Now I have to do some investigation. I have to actually read some stuff and get my questions that I'm trying to get my questions answered if I can. And so you're trying to build a foundation. And so you're reading these passages, and these passages can be a little difficult, especially for physics, right? And you're trying to understand it, but you're trying to understand it slowly. Don't go too fast, because your brain is grasping this, and it's okay to go slow. Now, self-learning, there's no rate. You're doing it on yourself. Then the fourth is recite the information. So recite means is between reading and learning and taking some notes as you're looking at the information, and you're picturing it in your own words. Then you're going to go back and you're going to kind of rephrase or process what you've been through. You're reciting things that you had a question about, and then did you get the answer to it? The fifth thing is called review. Review is you're trying to familiarize yourself with the most important parts of it. So gravity is a force that falls. It has an acceleration of 9.8 meters a second acceleration. It starts out and then it goes faster until it reaches terminal velocity, which is, when you have air resistance and gravity, they meet and they kind of slow down. It's a force, I guess. It was coined the name by Isaac Newton. You're kind of going back to that information. And so there's different ways you can take notes, by the way. There's Cornell notes. So if you don't know anything about Cornell notes, I don't use it. I'm not a big fan. I have my own way of taking notes. But you're trying to kind of put that into motion. It's a very interesting thing. And you're kind of asking yourself why, when, how, what questions to open that up. So there's ways that you can do this. And now you kind of want to figure out ways to read faster and retain more. Because Peter was saying that we need to read faster. If you want to self-learn, there's a lot of stuff out there that you want to, maybe you have a time frame and you want to self-learn and you want to keep a schedule. Well, reading out loud is one thing. Reading out loud is always a good thing, because reading out loud gets your other senses going. And that's good. The second thing is that you got to train your eyes. Your eyes are muscles, right? And you have to train your eyes, because maybe that's how you're getting the information. You have to look for your senses, kind of maybe using your finger, and you're kind of going down the lines and you're kind of keeping a pace. And you're kind of looking at your vision. Your vision, you have your peripheral vision and then your focus vision. And then you want to kind of keep your head straight when you're reading. So you're kind of, going like this, and just kind of reading the information. But you have to have a strategically skim. You want to skim the information too, to kind of keep it a little bit faster. And that helps too as you're going down. And you're kind of skipping the unnecessary words, like the really ones that are kind of there, like the unimportant words like if, then, the, all those little cheap words there that don't really mean anything, but the context is there. It takes a lot of practice to do this, though, and it's not easy. I mean, believe me, I'm a pretty fast reader, I think, but I still get caught up on what does the darn paragraph saying. So you kind of have to try to take back and look back and slow down and look at the big picture sometimes. And it's really your focus and attention. And you can't be multitasking, because that's not going to get you what you want. Multitasking is good to certain extents, but there's limitations to it. And so you kind of want to eliminate those distractions, like on the phone, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, right? And maybe a time. Set yourself up a time every day or something like that. It's very good. And so the review is that you want to mentally read out loud, right? Maybe you want to train your eyes and look for your pacing. Use your fingers to help you pace your focus down to. You want to kind of skim words that are kind of useless. And then the fourth one was focus and attention. And so you kind of want to maybe plan and set up a schedule and have goals to this too, to be a self-learner, because self-learning requires you to do your own thing, not somebody else up here, not a teacher that's forcing you to, hey, read chapter so-and-so by the end of the class. No, you're your own instructor. And so Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, very smart man that I have read, right? He was an inventor. He was a statesman. He was a writer. he was a philosopher, and he kind of wanted to wait to kind of reevaluate his skills in life. And if you want to look this up, it's called the 13 Virtues Checklist. And these are kind of like ways that he wanted to become a better person, and he would have this checklist of skills or virtues, I guess you would call it, of telling him, how to become a better person. And you can look that up if you want. I'm not going to say that because I don't have time for it. But very interesting. Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers. And it was just becoming a better human being. It's called the 13 Virtues. And this is kind of like a syllabus. If you ever go to a classroom and the teacher hands you out a syllabus is like a contract. It kind of keeps you on track in your life. And I think that's what the 13 Virtues was all about. It's like a checklist. And so you got to have a schedule too. You got to have a schedule in your life to kind of when you want to self-learn. When you want to learning independently, I'm going to take every day at 1 o'clock. I'm going to read for 2 hours. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a leisure break. Maybe I work during the daytime. You got to strategies. And this is why I read before I go to bed. At least I try to get an hour before I go to bed every night. If I have nothing really else going on. Maybe on the weekends, I try to stress that out a lot more because that's something I want to do. And I have to take care of family and stuff like that. That's a responsibility. Of course, there's priorities. But you got to have those things too. Being a self-learner is very good. You got to have a goal. And your goal can be measurable. And it could be goals can be whatever you want. But goals have to be measurable. They have to be a time. They have to be achievable. Don't make a goal way too out there. And they have to be very specific. I think it's called a SMART goal. Yeah, I want to look at it. S-M-A-R-T, SMART goal. So you really need to kind of be aware of your strengths when you're self-learning. And be careful how you're doing it too. Don't get frustrated. And if you fail on it, failure. We're always scared of failure. And in the book, Peter described failure as this. And I have to give this to you. Failure isn't to make you stop what you're doing. It's supposed to redirect you and encourage you to find a new way to go. I love that. So failure is not something to put you down. It's a way to kind of reassess your thinking so you have a new way of going. I like that. And so, self-learning is doing that. You're learning from yourself. You're doing something that is uniquely rewarding for yourself. And that a lot of people never do. It will impact your life exponentially. And concepts before facts, right? And we, as a civilization, we live on heuristics. These heuristics. Heuristics are like your ways of thinking about a different scenario, or a scenario, like a funeral versus a dentist office, a funeral versus a birthday party. You have a different mindset, a different way of acting in there. And it's all about mindset. If you want to self-learn, you have to be in the right mindset. A growth versus a fixed mindset. A growth is you have a good work ethic. It takes effort, it takes struggle, but you're more open to more intelligence and skills. A fixed mindset says, I have inborn talents and intelligence. That's it. I'm never going to get better. And it's really just a growth equals effort effect. And you have to have self-confidence. You have to have confidence. You have to regulate your emotions. I can, and not get frustrated. So, very interesting book. I really think that everybody should have some of his books in their office, because Peter Holmes, I need to search more about him, but he has many books that I'm going to review with you, because they all say a lot of good stuff, and I think it's very smart. So, very interesting book. It's not that big. This was not written that long ago. 2019-ish. And then it didn't cost that much. I think I ordered this online because it was hard to get, I guess. I just had a little search. And I just read one of his books, and I was like, oh, love this author. So, interesting book. Hopefully that really helped out, and I will see you on the next video.